Hello, everyone. Butts and Coconuts here with the first 2018 episode of Brunch before Weiss Schwarz. With me today, as always, is my beautiful co-host, Tim Tom the Bim Bomb.
Hello. Happy
Thomas,
New Year.
yeah, Happy New Year. What set are we doing today?
I love live sunshine.
Hell yeah, we're doing Love Live Sunshine. I'm really excited to do this. For those who don't know, the first podcast sort of thing I released was just myself with my first impressions of the Love Live Sunshine Extra Booster. I released it back in July, maybe June, or whenever the set actually came out. I released it, I think, about a week after that. So there will be a link to that in the description of this if you want to check that out. And just because that exists, I feel like we don't really have to talk about our first impressions with the set as much as we have in other ones, just because there's a whole dedicated, piece of media for that. So, big things from the set, just to recap. Double early play, that seemed pretty interesting. A couple new plussing combos. A lot of people have complained about Chica in the past, either because bombs are bad or bombs are bad. Um, so there's a two cell combo and a pants combo that both seemed really interesting. And then just some random utility cards that kind of helped fill out a set that had a bunch of cool cards at first, but nothing that really mm, pushed it far enough with the first set. So one of the first builds that I found on Twitter is this one, and this was a very early example of what a lot of modern builds ended up looking like now. This is from the first week or so, and it's a double early play build, playing Empty Doors and the Chica combo. Some of the other key things in here to note, I guess it's uh,
That level zero Kana.
yeah, the level zero Kanon. That's a very standout card and an overperformer. In my opinion, it's when it dies, you scry one, and then when something in your front row dies, if it's in the back row, you can send the Kanon to waiting room to bring the dead thing back rested. Uh,
I feel like it was even good set one, but no one
uh,
played.
yeah, it probably was good. I ended up discovering that I really enjoyed playing that card to bring back Chicas and stuff. And then it's also just good when you transition past level one because it's another layer of protection for your double early plays, which if they somehow manage to die, is nice to have that insurance. But the Chica's 13-5 and the Yo is 11-5, assuming you have a level assist out. So those are pretty good numbers, regardless of that. Much better numbers than the set one Hanamaru early play.
Yeah.
Uh,
You don't need to play Climax.
yeah, exactly. So this is general framework for what a lot of decks ended up looking like for a few months, and even to now, sort of this deck's playing 4K Hanamarus as a plussing thing instead of runners. It's playing this 2K Mari that turns itself into something else into a beater. It's playing Yo bombs. These are all cards that appear on and off in builds, and it's kind of in flex slots, if you ask me. But
Yeah.
on the other side of the world, uh, this is what I came up with for a first try at a double early play deck. Some things that when I look at this now, uh,
You went into blue instead of yellow
yes,
for a large portion of the deck.
yes, I had a very adamant thing when I started Sunshine that it was I'll never not play Mari in Sunshine. This card is just too sweet. And there were a lot of things in this deck, or this idea of the deck that Mari supported because the Scry is really good with the Yo level 3. This deck's playing 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20 hits for Mari to go back to your hand,
Yeah.
which is pretty good. Um, I think I personally over evaluated how much I would like the Musashi, because here I'm running the pants combo and I'm running for the Musashi because I think that card blew my mind the first time I saw it. Um, but yeah, I talk about this build in that initial podcast as well. Um, I talk about how this is just I was treating it as an evolution of my old Sunshine deck, which played Chica and Mari at level 1, and it played the Kanon Restander with the pants. But the way this deck ended up playing out versus that deck were like really different because the way I tried to play that deck usually is being very stock light or very light in spending stock to try to compress as well as I could, and then have a lot of stock to play these fairly expensive Kanon Restanders, and then try to heal a lot with that version of the deck. This version of the deck, playing the double early play stuff at level 2, I found it was harder to get as much stock back. I ended up not really liking the pants because I wasn't very impressed with the Yohane combo for one, and I didn't think pantsing back stock souls was good enough, especially once I sort of realized by level 2 I didn't really want to always be playing climaxes anyway, so it felt like these climaxes would just accumulate in my hand. Uh, but other than that, follows like playing runners, yo bombs, brainstorms, chicas, double early play stuff. Card I wasn't really aware of at all was the Kanon that we were just talking about that was in the old deck, or not the old deck, the deck before this.
Yeah.
I was still really up on this Dia card, which I really like that level 0 still. But yeah, that was a deck I never even considered playing in my initial testing, but I also didn't know set 1 very well, so I probably wasn't even totally aware of that card. So another deck from Japan I found in the earlier lists was this deck, a deck utilizing the new Diet combo, which shares a climax with the Yohane level 3, which seemed to be a really attractive part of that card, I think. The Diet combo is like Tenga from Kisniver, which is like on reverse, look at top 2, add all level 1 and higher cards to your hand. And that was kind of a sketchy effect, especially in Kisniver, because I feel like Kisniver just has to play a lot of level 0s. It seemed a little harder to build around Tenga. But in a deck like this with Mari and the Yos and Musashi, you're already incentivized to build more coin flippy, which this guy did because he's playing like 4 of each double early play piece. He's playing 12 level 0s, and then the rest is like climaxes and 1s and up. So, and like I said earlier, the pants is the same combo for the Musashi as well. So it's kind of um, you have more room for climaxes, but this guy decided to just play 4 more pants, and then he has a couple of the old Kanon Restander as well.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I kind
Both
of
cards
picked.
heal too.
Yes, they're both finishers that heal, which is pretty interesting. And the Kanon heals without the climax too, like, if you really wanted to, but it's kind of expensive at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's expensive with the combo regardless, but yeah,
I mean, the die is probably
more efficient.
more ideal. Yeah. Just it's
Yeah, well, I mean it's a 1 stock heal.
yeah.
Um,
So is the Kana, but you have to pay 2 stock for the character on top.
yeah, of
So
course. Um, yeah, originally I downloaded this picture because it's just seemed kind of silly. Um,
I
but
mean, there's a lot of stuff to try, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the weird thing is, like, I kept seeing like 8 pant decks. Like, I don't know if it was the same guy, but I saw at least a couple other 8 pants builds.
It's
So
weird. Is that dies the drop searcher, right?
yeah, it drop searches for blue, and like if none of your front row characters are rested, you can pay one and rest it, and then it goes to like memory during your next encore step, like
Oh.
one of those effects.
Oh.
It's a drop search for blue, and it's like a pay one plus sort of. Um,
Yeah.
and then this deck is playing 4 of the Kanon as well, which can help with running less zeros, I guess, if you really need to. But generally, it's probably just to get more chances on your level 1 combo or saving the double early plays. So very similar idea to the Chica double early play build. Um, and then something I noticed is there's a third plussing combo. It was a Ruby plus 2 soul combo, but when I was looking through Japanese Twitter, I saw absolutely 0 lists for that card, like at all, like at any point in time. So I oh oh no, wait. Okay, my bad. Right here, this was like one of my first builds for the plus 2 soul deck. I talk about this in my podcast as well, but I decided I would, include some form of list. Um, do you have any idea why Japan didn't play this like at all?
um, I don't think they rate so. I don't think they rate the two soul combo that highly, and so and I don't think they rate the top end that highly. If that
Okay,
makes sense. So I don't. So big
but
reason why you play like this deck concept is like you're playing costless playables. You're generally not playing after your climax combo turn. You're generally not playing climaxes at all. You're just like recurring playables, building a
mhm,
lot of stock. Um, it's really that kind of playstyle is really useful in decks that have really good like that scale really well with more stock. An example is like AOT.
mhm,
Um, and from my perspective, I think they don't think that the top end scales that well with a lot of stock, and they don't think the two soul combo is good enough to carry the rest of the deck, to carry that subpar top end. So they'd much rather play for a game plan that more consistently gets out a double early play, which I think they rate very highly, that
right,
aspect of the Sunshine deck. And so they'd rather maximize that than play this um, game plan, which they're not typically that much of a fan of. I think they like playing for field or playing for ways that uh, negate advantages uh,
right,
gotten from the field.
mhm,
Uh, and this build doesn't really. This build tends not to do that
right.
for significant portions of the game.
Well, and like a build specifically like this, because this is um, like I could have put a more refined build, but I wanted to intentionally put like my more
Yeah.
juvenile builds or whatever. Like, notable exclusions include the 2-1 Rico, which I thought was, at the time, I just kind of viewed it more as a level assist than a top check because I didn't really understand how important that was for the deck
Man,
at the
that card
time.
is so good.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
card
oh
is,
man.
man, I am so, spoiler, I'm so glad I play 4 in Sunshine currently because that card is just amazing, I think.
I don't know if I'd play four if it were in an early play condition.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I mean that's
yeah,
a big part of it because you're
yeah.
virtually playing with 3 when you want it, right? And then maybe
But
it's
as
a 3 of
a
at that point.
but as a card you play, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
one of
you.
the coolest level assists printed recently.
Yeah, you. It's like I definitely want it on the field more for the second effect, because the top checks are just so important for pretty much any build of Sunshine, I think.
Yeah, it does a
Um,
lot. Like this deck plays around a lot. This deck can do a lot with that information.
Yeah.
There's some mid-flight. It just adds an extra element uh, to your top end, your yo burn. Um, Gives you a little bit of selection, maybe. Gives
Hmm.
you information on whether maybe you want to brainstorm or whatnot,
Yeah.
etc. Battle trigger information. It's cool.
Yeah. I also super highly rated this 1-0 event when the set came out.
Oh, the computer.
Yes. I still think it's a fine card, but the more I played the deck, it was not a trouble getting the two soul to hand ever. So
It's also just hard. I think it's an inherent minus, right?
yes, it is.
It is hard to tank a neg one,
Yeah.
even for a climax. I think.
Yeah, but the thought process, of course, was like, getting your two
Yeah,
souls is
yeah,
super
yeah,
big
yeah.
for the deck because the ruby is like a pay 1+2 if you hit the top check both
Yeah.
times, which is pretty easy to do and fairly powerful. But yeah,
But even without the climax combo, it's like the deck can still do things. It still does. You're not totally boned if you don't get your right climax. Considering most of your level one playables can recur themselves, the
yes,
Mari and the Ruby.
yeah. So it was a very interesting deck, but um, yeah, I guess the Japanese players didn't value it too highly. And personally, the more I played it, the less I liked it. And I'm not sure if that's a playstyle thing or an actual thing about the deck, but I definitely kept finding myself in positions that weren't super comfortable to me. But generally, I've tended to um, side with Japanese decks, like how Japanese decks are built or are built to operate. So maybe there's some insight to that with how I think and how they think on at least on this subject. Anyway, so I I remember what this picture is for. This was something I talked about with people quite a bit.
It's like they're playing
When the
Puyo.
Yes, it's very similar to Puyo. So when the set came out, a very notable thing, of course, is as I said before, the Dia and the Yohane, they share this pants combo, and it frees up your climax slot. So I talked to people, um, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you just play Chica and Dia at level one at the same time, and then whichever climax you draw or whatever, you can build your game plan around that." Or at worst, like when you play the Dia climax, Chica's still a bomb, and when you play the Chica climax, Dia is a 6K, which is decent. Um, it's interesting, but it just never seemed super good to me.
I
But
mean, both
good.
your the climax combos aren't necessarily the best either.
Yeah. And this isn't even playing like this build is there's some weird stuff with this build, but I generally pulled it aside just to discuss that like there were some people experimenting with double level one just because they could, just because um as you will see later, Sunshine decks tend to only have one actual climax combo.
Yeah.
Or very, very rarely have I seen other combos. They'll play either empty doors, they'll play the Yo door with like one or two copies of the Yo burner, or they'll be playing the Mirai ticket Wind. But even then, they're only playing like one or two Musashis, so it's probably not super impactful. Uh, so after some time, I think this was like a few months after, like maybe like August, September range. This list stood out to me because this is uh okay. What's important about this list? Zero is fairly streamlined. 4-3-3 as far as like Rico, Yo, Chica for the early play. Um, a lot of people's numbers were all over the place because they weren't sure like where or what numbers to run the pieces at. I think the first list I showed had like three Rico and then two of the level threes. Um, I played 3 Rico, 2 Chica, 3 Yo for a while. And then for a while I landed on 333, and then a lot of Japanese lists were like 333 or 324, with a favor of Yo over Chica in those instances.
Mhm.
But this is around the time when I started seeing a lot of 4 Rico, because I'm assuming this is around the time that people realized um, it's really good to play Rico with your early plays.
Yeah.
And since you only have so many salvages to work with, even though you're running like Salvage Brainstorm, these salvaging bombs, the Chica combo, and the doors, it just drawing into the pieces you need by level 2 um, lightens the load a lot. And comparing Rico to a lot of other clock conditions I've played with, I know I've complained about the Symphogear Zweiwing, because that clock condition is a 4 of, but it's a card you generally want to just play a lot throughout the game. But this is like,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, but this
This is one
card,
you're just like saving, right? You're
yeah,
not.
this is a card you're not playing till 2 anyway, and you're probably playing 1 copy, maybe 2 if you're trying to do some crazy play. Like I've played 2 before because the first one top checks a level 3, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I want to salvage a second level 3 in my waiting room, but it's not necessarily something that comes up a lot. But it's a card that you definitely want to play every game, but not necessarily in multiples, and then it doesn't feel too restrictive to hold it in your hand because you don't need to play it till 2 anyway, as opposed to playing either a bad level 0 or a good level 0, but it's good enough that you want to not necessarily keep it in your hand. I feel like Shining Resonance, having its resonance target be a Ricky, you might run into those situations as well with a
I
deck
think.
like that.
Well, Shining is a bond to the Ricky, so it's a little different.
Ah,
Yeah.
eh, okay.
So yeah, you just bought it back, and then you can then like pass level 1 where you're not like using Ricky at all. It's just a resonance thing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but I
It
used to
was.
make that comparison a lot with Resonance because it was like you could play the weird Saber Beater 0,
It's like a
or
ditch
you could
bond to
play
the
a
Ricky.
Ricky. Yeah,
It's like
you're
a
right.
ditch
It's
bond
the
to
drop
the Ricky.
search, right? It's the
Yeah.
level 0. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that card.
Cool card. Um, this list is also running way less of the Musashi. It's like running a lot of healers instead.
Yeah, it's
Um,
playing 2 of this Ruby Healer, one
and it's running
Musashi,
empty
one
doors.
Bouncer, empty doors. And these are general trends you'll see a lot. Um,
I think the door is really important actually.
yeah,
Um,
doors important. Punches. This deck has 2
yes,
of the Ruby punches because protecting your early plays is good. Um, the Ruby punch is really weird. It's just kind of one of those cards that's like will most likely do nothing. Because you mill cards from your opponent's deck when you punch. It's a mandatory mill. Could lead to interesting game states, but it is a 3k punch with an effect that might do something, and there is a 3/5 punch, but it's like a top check. If you top check a character, it's a 3/5 punch. So uh, I'm guessing the thought process with this is they would rather take the static always 3k, um, or it's like the 3/5 is excessive because the early plays are pretty decently big on their own with a Rico assist. It's probably somewhere around there. But
yeah.
yeah, one Musashi. It's like 1 to 2 Musashi was super common around here, which is funny because a lot of the initial builds had like 3 or 4 copies because I think a lot of people were very hyped on that combo. But yeah, I'm not sure why that combo wasn't as impressive as I thought it would be when I actually played it out. Uh,
Hmm.
could be a playstyle thing. Um, I think it's like there's just a lot of different level 3s you might have wanted to end up playing, and like the Musashi gets really good in multiples, but it's like if your general game plan involves playing one Musashi just as like what playing one Musashi on the field, then dedicating a climax slot for one heal probably just wasn't that good.
I think it just turned out that playing dies is pretty comparable. Like,
Yes, as an
like it,
efficient healer.
yeah, that card being very efficient as a healer, um, it just kind of made the heal off the Musashi a lot less valuable, perhaps.
Yeah. And even
Like
in
you could play double, you could play, you know, yeah, the one stock heal is just super efficient.
also the
So
Musashi needs a reverse, so it's like
yeah, that's also true.
so even if you have, game states where you have multiple Musashis, it's like they might not all even heal you.
Yeah,
So it might just be a consistency thing, or it's just like uh at the end of the day the card's still a Musashi, and I don't think
there's also the bit where
Musashi's
like,
that great,
um,
like as a primary finisher at least. Like yeah, I think Yo is a much
yeah,
better primary finisher.
there's also like Global Soul combined with higher trigger counts is also just not that great either. I think.
Yeah. Um
I think it's you're building to maximize Yo in turn makes the Musashi turn worse. I think
yeah,
in a
cuz
lot of ways.
yeah, to it's interesting to think about. But there could have been like a solution. Well, it's not like a great solution, but if you wanted more control over your cancel burn, there's just like a flat
Oh yeah,
cancel
the
burn
Doggo.
one. Yeah, the dog ruby from set one. But that's not like a card you generally want to play like at all, I guess. Or like you wouldn't want to play it in multiples. So if you're playing one Musashi, I guess you'd rather play that. But yeah, Musashi as a primary game plan in a deck build like this is probably not that amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is
Modern
for
is this a modern more recent build?
this is around the same time I think. I pulled this one down because this has more of a blue focus than the last deck. Um, Still has a lot of the same ideas, obviously. Like a lot high counts of Salvage Bomb, of the Kanon, uh, Ruby, Chico level 1, but it's also playing the Maris at level 1, probably just for more value. It plays no Musashi, it plays uh, 4-3-3 for the early play stuff, and it's playing Die Healers because it's more in blue as well.
Yeah.
And this is a build I've seen people online talk about, like in the West, more like if they're playing a double early play build, they're playing a triple color level 1, which I think is kind of greedy and unnecessary. I've never really been a fan of playing for that sort of stuff. Um, and especially here, because like I don't really know what situations it's like. If you're in a situation where you're only down, it's like low level 1 and you only have access to one or two colors and you're making like a choice of leveling. I don't know how many situations I actually want to play Mari, like at level 1. I understand that Mari is good with Yo because it's both a top check on play and on reverse, so you can kind of um, make plays with it like that, but just seems fairly unnecessary to me in my own playing of the deck.
Uh, well, the Japanese play it more like I'm pretty sure they play it as more like a level 2 and beyond play.
Oh, okay.
It's probably like their best costless thing. Like you have two slots occupied by the early plays, and then like the third slot's just something. If you don't need to Azusa, Mori's not a bad play, and you likely have the blue by then.
That's
I'm
fair.
pretty certain they do not play to level 1. I don't think they would ever prioritize the blue unless it was like a very specific, somewhat rare. Like it would have to be something like you just are out all your stock souls. right?
Yeah.
You have no chance of getting the Chica at all, and so now you have to like do something else. But I don't see that happening very often for this deck.
Like the deck is not built in a way to it's not built with that in mind.
Yeah.
It's just so weird to me because when I play, like, one of my issues when I was playing Mari's, given I wasn't playing rubies, in my old build, but it was like it just felt so hard to get through the first deck
Right.
without
I
the
mean,
ruby.
yeah. I mean, they're not prioritizing Mari at all.
Yeah.
So as is evidenced by them only running like most of these lists actually just like run like two, right? Just
Yeah.
like one, even one sometimes, because it's just like maybe it'll just like you'll just play it. I like I've seen some of those slots be devoted to like backups
Yeah.
occasionally in these builds, and they I think they'd just rather play the Mari in its place, even though they're not like competing for the same function.
Right.
Uh, Maybe they don't see that much value
I
in
mean,
the
in
level
my
of backup.
it's like in my deck, I think the Maris are just more like I have a more like diversified top end or whatever you want to call it. Compared to like what this guy has. And the major differences is like some card counts, um, and then those two Maris. So pretty close to mine, but I prioritize different parts of the game plan, and I think that makes sense because I think Mari's role is not super clearly defined, even if you say like yeah they play for it like a level two play, but even then it's like probably not that big of a deal because they already have a very strong level two play. It's just kind of like a good third card to field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Personally, I'm a little disappointed because man, I loved Mari so much, but whatever. There's always the future.
It works out for this deck because your red's typically coming from the clock,
Yes.
so you're free to like level whatever at level one, level two.
Yes, but that's a little weird because like obviously you'll have red at level two from the Rico being in clock, but yeah, sometimes one.
I mean, like you're probably clocking like yo, right? Level one, two, because
Yeah,
you want to
if
be
you have it, yeah, because
uh,
like the play there is obviously clock yo, level before refresh, and then when you level after
yeah,
refresh, you have a yo in waiting room. But sometimes you have to level red. It's like it's
yeah.
whatever. It's not a
They're
big
not
deal.
probably not too fussed about it. It's just a two slot thing.
Yep. Anyways, uh, so a couple months after this, like August to September era of Sunshine lists. Which I guess the notable thing to bring up about that era is its post ban list, um, or it's around the time of the ban list.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sunshine was really picking up steam after like Gochiusa got hit, and then ReZero started to have a decline in representation, which just to me would naturally be a better environment for Sunshine to be in because less pucks to face against. Also, excuse the potato quality of the pictures. I downloaded really bad pictures and then when I saved this image it just compressed them further and now they're starting to like it's like when a Digimon dies, right? And they just kind of turn into data. That's like what's happening. Anyway, so around October, I think it was October, they came out with a Love Live Happy Party Train trial deck. Um, Trial Deck Plus. And there weren't a lot of great cards in it because, of course, it's a trial deck, but some more interesting ones that stood out to me were this, and stood out to other players because they actually showed up in other people's decks. Um, this Chica is a tap self draw brainstorm with on play top check. If it's a music character, add to hand and discard. It's interesting because it's a 5 card brainstorm the first turn you play it, and then uh,
I think it's pretty good actually.
Sunshine's brainstorm situation is really weird, right? Like you have the
Yeah,
Rico.
I mean you're typically making sacrifices no matter what brainstorm you're running, and this Chica is no different.
Yeah, yeah. But this and the Hanamaru brainstorm, if I just really desperately wanted a top self brainstorm, I like this one a lot more than the Hanamaru. I think the Hanamaru is just really weird. Um,
One sec.
yeah. We have a Kanon 1-0, which is just a standard Shimakaze combo with a pants, so it's on reverse search for music. This seemed very promising because people have complained about Chica um, in like a negative way since the first set came out. So people thought maybe it was time for change because it was time to get your selective advantage from something that wasn't Chica. Uh, Sunshine doesn't really have good back rows though, at least like back rows you want to run that can support a card like this, because this being 5k power is actually really bad. And then I think about, as a Nisekoi player, I think about like, well, what's the difference between this and that? And honestly, I don't know. I guess I've just dealt with it in Nisekoi for so long. Uh, there's this restander that if all your characters are music or some number, if you have some number of music characters on field, I don't know. Um, it's 11k, and then it has on play. When it reverses its battle opponent, you pay 3, pitch 1, and restand. It's the same cost as like the one from Takapo or Prince Yugen from Kantai. I was super excited for this card. This was like second or third spoiler for the trial deck, and I was like so excited because I want a restander, but I didn't want to play the set one restander, and having like a free restander on a cost that I thought was fairly acceptable was
What's the
very,
cost again
very
on this?
exciting. It's the Prince Yugen cost, so it's like pay 3, discard a character,
Hmm.
discard a traded character. Um, yeah, and then I love restanders. Thomas doesn't love restanders. I love this card. Thomas probably thinks this card is whatever, but that
It's like okay. I think so. Like I think where restanders are really just typically horrendous is when they're paired when you're obligated to run a global soul climax level 3.
yes,
Um,
I
whether
think
that's because it's a climax combo or because you have other cards that are better with global soul. Um, I think this card's okay. I think it's fine.
I mean I
Uh,
think it just rounds out the top end really well. Because like I agree with the things that restanders are a bit uh
I think it's really nice as like so like we're in situations where you'd be playing the second. Sometimes you play like a second yo, but that doesn't feel too great because you're not getting the information right.
yeah.
Except in very specific scenarios. Um, this is like the second yo, right? Except you don't
Sort
need to
of.
hit the burn. Like, and if you can
Yeah.
play it down, and if you have the reverse, that's great. Like you're only gonna play it if you get the reverse, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can play
Um,
it. You can attack with yo first with a hit or whatever, and you can attack with this. And that's fine.
yeah. I mean, I just think as a supplementary thing, it fits the deck well, and also it's kind of
Yeah.
like it keeps it solo because so you have top checks and then general dummy sort of easy guide to Kanon restander. If you top check a character with a soul trigger, attack with Yo first. A character with a soul trigger slash level 1, because obviously you get the burn there. If you top check level zeros, you attack with Kanon first.
Yes.
Yeah. So you also don't run into like the plus sold nightmare of like, oh my restander's so like you just have more information so you can make better attack decisions with your restander. I guess is what I'm getting at.
You can also, I mean, if you play like Amari alongside this card, you can get mid-flight trigger information on the second attack. If you want that, like if
Yes.
your field's like Yo, Kanan, Mari, for example.
Yes. Um, it's very interesting, and then the Mari also benefits the Yo, um, in the same
Yes.
way. So that's like it's probably a very hard board to actually attack with. But I digress. I really like this card, but if this was the set's primary finisher, I'd probably be really upset at the same time. I think it just rounds out what the deck has already very
Yeah.
well. Um, and then we got the Happy Party Train Rico. This is just like a 11k healer.
It's red, but yeah, it's a healer.
Yeah, but I mean, like
Yeah.
people, it's just like another healer. Like people sometimes play the Chica from set one, which is just a big healer. People sometimes play the Ruby, which is like a Shimakai.
I feel like the
People will
Ruby's
play
better,
probably, but
especially if you're playing the Kanon, right? It's like pretty cool.
yes, that's a pretty good interaction. But it's a card I've seen in people's lists,
Yeah.
so and like it's a healer.
People like Rico.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She's like a better Umi. So this was a list I found basically right at the release of the trial deck. This is notable because it's actually playing the Happy Party Train Kanon, which is the Shimakaze combo.
Those noise cards.
Yeah, I mean this dude must just
This guy loves music.
this guy loves Symphogear. Yeah, dude. And he's got the best character as well, like
Noise
over
is
to the
attacking
side.
Sunshine characters.
Um, yeah, so double early play stuff, 4-3-3 on the ratios. Lots of Dia healers, which is pretty cool. Um, Not sure what card that is next to the Ruby Punch. I think it's
I think
probably
it's
the
the
anti-change
interchange
and
bomb,
bomb.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's wearing the Hanamaru Global.
Yeah, he's running the Hanamaru Global. I talked about that when you stepped away. I'm not sure when you came back, but I said that there wasn't a lot of good back rows to use with the Kanon, because it's just a 105k at the end of the day. There's a Mari Married Life that's also in the Happy Party Train trial deck, but I don't really see that. Maru's a pretty good card. It'll make like your Ruby pretty respectable with a climax as well.
Yeah. Bigger
Two,
problem is just like slots.
yeah, two Brainstorm, which is like something that was definitely happening a lot. Like sometimes even one Brainstorm. Like these lists were getting pretty wild, but for Azusa, so I guess that's like the idea there. Like you're getting your mill from there. Like he might not necessarily value the Brainstorm for being a potential plus.
I think the mentality is probably like you're not even. I don't know if the back row, like the planned back row, is like includes the brainstorm at any point, right? I think this deck would much
Yeah,
rather have the global and or saver with the paired with the level X, the level 2, right?
yeah.
Past
Well, oh
like
yeah, especially this deck because of the
yeah,
1k global. Yeah, it's
yeah.
kind of weird. And then he's playing this Dia bottom deck bomb because
He likes Dia.
he likes Dia. That's pretty respectable. I like Dia too. But yeah, there aren't a lot of Happy Party Train lists at all. But I'm glad I found one to include because I haven't even thought about how to make a deck with this card, so I wasn't really looking forward to trying to make one for the video.
Hmm.
Haha. Uh, and then uh, here we are today, the present, the future now.
Oh, is this your list?
Yeah, this is my
Okay,
current
okay.
list. This is taken at my beautiful locals, Addie's Games. Some okay, so we have access to my first list right here, and then this list here. Some things that are immediately different are I'm running punches in this list, and I'm running the Kanon savers in this list. I'm running Ruby instead of Mari, and I'm running the empty doors instead of the pants. I already explained how much I didn't like the pants earlier. Um, I think door is just pretty great in this deck.
I think I would have to agree.
I really like where my build is right now. I can't really think of any cards I want to run. Um,
Maybe a cost to backup because you're running doors, but like
yeah, I guess that's fair.
yeah.
I just don't like that Ruby backup or the Chica backup.
No, you just run like a vanilla backup or something. It's like,
Uh, I guess there's a vanilla backup now. I think there's one in the TD Plus. But yeah, this the only thing I've thought about swapping is I've thought about swapping the counts on the Musashi and the Dia Healer.
in
I'm
the
not
here. Yeah.
not really sure how I landed on 3 Musashi when I made this list, but I think I was just throwing cards in, and then because I remember like all my Sunshine stuff was apart for a while because I was just trying decks and like taking them apart. And then when I got the Happy Party Train trial deck, I was so excited because I got the card that I saw like months ago, and it was time for me to revive the deck. And as you can see, there's one total card from the Happy Party Train trial deck in here, 5 if you count the doors. But I am so happy every time I play that Restander, because uh, like it's a one of a card I don't always go for, but I'm always like super thankful to have it. So I think that that's actually a really big inclusion in the deck, even if it's not like a part of the primary game plan.
Hmm.
Well, maybe it could be a part of the primary game plan, but uh, generally I like to have a field of like Yo Burner, Musashi, and Restander, and hopefully like the Restander is against a level one, so I can side.
Yeah.
Um, create those sorts of scenarios. It reminds me of like old Kantai, like pre most recent ban list Kantai, where I would play against it and they would produce a field of something like Prinz, Restander, Musashi, and
Yeah.
Kashima Burner. Um,
Right.
and Kashima is a little different than Yo because Kashima is customizable, but just very similar in that those fields can produce a lot of damage, and the damage is like through different ways. And it's a little nicer in this deck because Kashima scales with reverses. The Yo doesn't need reverses at all. The Musashi doesn't need reverses. So you can like if there's only one reverse, you could dedicate that slot to the Restander, where Kantai in the same situation wouldn't be able to do it. So I guess Fubuki from Kantai.
Yes.
Yeah,
Never
that's
mind that
probably
card.
that might be a better comparison to Yo. But either way, it just makes me think of Kantai collection, at least in like the kill turn and the possibilities. I think that's really cool because I really liked that about Kantai, and I was going to pick it up, but then the week I was looking for cards, they announced the ban list, so that's pretty cool, huh?
Ban lists. You
Yeah.
want to talk about potential? You want to talk about the upcoming ban list, or
Oh boy, yeah. Yeah, why don't we do that, huh? Seems kind of important. So, a lot of people have been talking about the possibility of Love Live Sunshine getting hit. Um, and I think they have a good reason to talk about that. Um, generally, like representation stats.
really? I feel
What?
like Sunshine is much more in rain compared to under rain. Sorry, is it under rain? Uh, rains. Compared to like the boogeyman decks of before. Like I'm pretty sure we saw more ridiculous representation from the likes of Monogatari, Kantai, and Cinderella Girls than we've
Well,
seen from Sunshine this
I, d-
season.
I don't have that data on hand, but
Neither do I. It's just something. It's something I remember. Uh,
but
for some reason, the numbers right now for Sunshine do not stick out to me as something that like needs like a anything more than like a slap on the wrist or something.
yeah. Well, I mean that's still getting hit by the ban list, right?
Sure. Um,
I don't think they'll decimate the deck, but I think they might just do something to slow it down. Because
maybe. Yeah.
some things to consider from Bushiroad's perspective is like if they're actually afraid of Sunshine be going out of control, quote unquote. There's a new set coming out in April, right?
Yes.
So there's a few ways you could look at it. They could do the thing where they're afraid they're going to make a set too good, so they make a set with no teeth, and ultimately the deck doesn't change like at all because the set
Mhm.
just sucks.
Yeah.
Or like they could have been developing like a good set, and then they see that these are the numbers after this WGP season, and they weren't really what they're expecting. And then do they gut the set they made, or do they, slap Sunshine on the wrist, as you said? Like, I'm not sure if that's actually how Bushiroad thinks, but considering that they use representation data and representation and top data to decide if like like what gets hit, then I feel like they they have to make those decisions kind of on the fly.
Hmm.
I feel like making a decision like that would be a decision made on the fly, obviously, because these charts or whatever that I'm looking at are fairly recently. I'm guessing they're just from all the Japanese regionals or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, what are the words I'm looking for? That means between like them collecting all this information and uh, about a month from now, they have to decide what they're going to do to Sunshine. So I feel like they,
The band will probably tell us a lot about what the new set will bring us.
yes, that's probably what I'm getting at. And then compared to something like Gochi Yusa was like so new that they didn't have any regional data for it.
When they
Um,
banned it,
yeah. Well, no.
or when
Like
they
like
when it
when
first
it
came out,
first
right? Because
came out.
first came out before
It
right
came out
before banned,
like
right?
it came
Yeah.
out like December 23rd.
It did it? It did make it to
Well,
World
it won Worlds.
One. Yeah, it won.
Yeah.
But
Um
that was the first tournament I think it was in.
yeah, but Sunshine has been out the entire WGP season. Um
Mhm.
I wish I had the data for like Monogatari and Tried Primus to compare it to, but
I feel like it was higher, but I have no. All I, rem- all I remember, I feel like it wasn't like. I think it was much more than 11% representation, which is what Sunshine comes out to.
yeah,
In
well, it
terms of
has
total representation.
11% representation, but like the number of like tops or whatever, like the number of exos and tops, um, are pretty. They seem pretty big compared to the other sets.
Well,
Again,
the other sets probably have like comparably less. I think
uh,
I'm not sure. I want to say it's like pretty comparable to the other top decks as far as like representation
well,
top cut.
I mean, we could do some math or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
if I am to understand this chart right, um, I think I'm looking at singles. Um, so if 26%, wait, okay, maybe I don't know how this works. It just seems disproportionate because I'm at least comparing top two on both. So Sao has a 9.7% representation. Um, and it just looks like its numbers are a bit lower when you look at the second chart. And maybe I could link to these charts so I'm not just talking like total BS when someone's watching this. But basically, I have a chart that says like each the representation, uh, I believe in top cut of all the sets, and then like how it's split between, and then a second chart that's like how the tops are split, like uh, undefeated and like top with undefeated in singles and trios or something like that.
Yeah. Mm,
Uh,
there are
yeah,
no units
yeah, that's the
on this
problem.
graph. It's very interesting.
Well, I mean, you're looking at the like blue, red,
What do
yellow,
these
green.
numbers mean?
Uh, I mean,
I think these are percentages, right? They probably all the blues probably add up to 100, all the reds probably add up to 100, and yeah,
yes.
and so on and so forth.
Um, well, if you look at it like that, I mean, uh, hmm,
Like in blue, uh, it's like man,
like portrait.
I don't want to talk about this chart because I feel like it's just gonna make the video like terrible and dry and boring. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
I'm a little afraid that Sunshine's gonna get hit, and it's not even like a thing of like I think it needs to get hit. It's just like LOL Bushi Road or whatever. Like to me it's kind of like a meme, but a part of me also believes like it might just happen because I don't know how to predict what that company is going to do.
I feel like it'll be very comparable to the first round of Monogatari bans.
Well,
Um,
no, that means the second one they're gonna absolutely kill the deck.
if people continue to play Sunshine, sure. As far as I remember, I think the representation, I think the numbers actually increased for Monogatari post ban.
Yeah, but I
They,
think
which was actually quite absurd if I think about it.
yeah, but it's also like I think the kind of deck that people were playing was like totally different, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was a very, very different climate back then.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean just in general, like people weren't playing cat decks before, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, they had to change everything about the deck.
And
Uh,
that worked out for the better, because man,
yeah.
that was a ridiculous winter.
Um, I think they might see Chica. They might see Chica as one of those meta actors that like, puts like some kind of pressure on players to build a certain way, and they may not like that. Like a combo like Chica, I think is a very very distinctive meta card. If a lot of people are playing it, I think it kind of changes how people approach deck building, especially like for level ones. Similarly to how Gochiusa affected deck building for um, the meta at level one when it was unbanned.
Right. Uh,
Um, uh, so like things like I don't have the numbers. This is just me. This is a hypothesis. But I mean, I think Puck is still probably really good in like in this kind of meta where Sunshine is popular. Like those ReZero Puck builds, I think are still very good, even if we're
uh,
seeing less of them.
but like good at level one, right?
Yeah, good at level one. Yeah.
Because I would assume that people didn't just go back to playing those puck decks because like I don't know, maybe they just don't think ReZero can win level two against
Maybe. I
Sunshine.
feel like it's very, I think it's a very reasonable matchup. I don't know. It
Uh,
feels like, um, because Sunshine doesn't have an anti-change counter, so there's like, um,
yeah. I mean, I'm just suggesting like because I was thinking about this earlier today and I've thought about it before, just like because that's not necessarily what I believe, but that's really the only conclusion I could come to as to like why don't they just do that again?
maybe they favor. I mean, so right now I think Sal and Kimono are also very popular. I think the bombs affect those decks a lot less too, with the way they play Sword Art, and obviously Kimono they're running like Dolphins, which don't really care about Chica at all. Um, the way they build standby Sal, like I think bombs are actually really weird against standby Sal, against standby decks in general, because like you'd obviously if there's a bomb left on the board, right, you would obviously attack that first with like a low value level one that could reverse the Chica, and then like if you trigger standby, it's great. Like you're playing this, you're just replacing the card that got reversed by the Chica or something.
Oh, oh, that's
Um,
cheeky.
and you
Holy.
have and your one ones are have hand on core, so like you're not necessarily losing a whole lot playing Sword Art against Sunshine Field. And
Interesting.
I think Kimono, I think the reason these decks have gotten a bit more popular, maybe they decided ReZero wasn't that good anymore, so they're gonna play like these decks instead. I think Sunshine has a lot to do with the surge in popularity of Standby Sao and Kimono. Um,
Yeah. And I
maybe
think
Bushiro doesn't like that.
yeah. I think in general, I'd probably pick those two decks over ReZero as well.
Yeah, probably.
Um, Never thought about looking at it from that way. Well, thank you, because that was very educational to me, just as I hope that this was educational to all my lovely 60 subscribers. Sorry, all of our 60 subscribers. I'm not trying to push any like, comment, subscribe stuff, but really my only motive for that is at 100 subs I get to set a custom URL, so I'd really like that, so I could say something like youtube.com/strictlybroken.tcg instead of uh, bunch of numbers and letters or whatever. I just pick something random. Probably won't change our name to that, but you guys get the idea probably. Anyway, yeah, so that's Love Live Sunshine. Um, I look forward to talking about this set yet again in probably about like
Half a year.
half a year, 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next on the list we have Vivid Strike probably, something like that.
Vivid. Is it Vivid?
Uh,
We could talk about Vivid or Kimono
yeah, Vivid or Kimono.
or maybe I think that's it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, guys. For those of you who made it this far. Hopefully we'll get something else out fairly soon, like using air quotes there, because it takes a while to actually get all the information and then get together and do this. But hope for this to be a fairly regular thing in 2018. Uh, this is Butts and Coconuts and Tim Tom signing out.